Yep. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Whimper podcast. Probably the 17th episode, I guess. Mihir Athale, we have here today, is an astronomy educator and is proficient in IT and engineering. He has worked on various projects from teaching astrophotography to tribal kids in Ladakh and astronomy to students at an organization he's currently working at. In this episode in particular, we are going to be talking about teaching. How do you teach STEM? What challenges do you need to solve? How do you get better? And some really fun and thought provoking questions along the way. So grab your snacks, sit around, and have a cup of coffee if you wish. Take notes if you wish, and enjoy the show. Yep. Hi, Mihir. How are you doing?
Hey, hi, Divyansh. I'm doing great. Just we are having holiday season, to be honest, with the kids. So we are preparing for the next year's curriculum. And as of now, I have a stargazing plan tonight if the weather stays clear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, where are you right now?
I'm in Coimbatore, Tamil
Okay.
Nadu.
Okay. So, I hope the night sky is quite clear, right? Because I did actually did a session with one of the people who is into stargazing and like has an organization of that focuses on stargazing itself, and they were saying discussing on the same problem that stargazing can't be done very much in city lights and all that stuff. So, do you also face that problem?
I do definitely face it, like we all do, because of the city lights. People have stopped looking up, and people have lost the glory of the night skies. So,
Mm-hmm.
usually, you have to travel 200, 300 kilometers away from the city, probably a big city like Bangalore,
Mm-hmm.
Hyderabad, or Delhi, to get
Mm-hmm.
into the good skies. Here in down south, Coimbatore is slightly better. Where we are blessed with good enough, okay skies about 100 and 150 kilometers away,
Mm-hmm.
but from the city, you cannot see much. Usually, the bright stars, planets. If the weather is extremely clear, you'll go on about to see few star clusters and Orion Nebula, which is one of the brightest objects in the night sky.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
For the kids, for the outreach and whatever we are doing right now, that is like just the beginning, like, and that is enough for them to experience. But if they're interested, we do often suggest them to come with us for a stargazing trip somewhere in the Western Ghats, probably somewhere near Ooty or Madhumalai forest.
Mm-hmm. I see. So where do we start? Let's start off with the questions itself, or like, do you have something to tell audience?
Uh, let's start with the questions. I think we can share the journey as we go along.
Yep. So the first question that I have, we've created this stigma around space and tech education. To be honest, that I've also observed personally, that these fields are only for science students and people in the scientific field and STEM field. I'd say that's not very true, to be honest, because I'm studying PCM right now in 12th grade, and there are only one to two kids around me who are studying in my class who even know how ChatGPT works, to be honest. Okay. They like the rest of the students don't even know how ChatGPT works. Probably they haven't used it for even once. Probably they haven't even heard of what an AI model is, or what an LLM is, or what a generative AI model is. Forget all of those complex stuff. They have not even used the software. So I think that's quite thing that it has been myth busted. That is not true. That people in the science or STEM field are updated with technologies around them, developing technologies all the time, because it also depends upon the environment you are in. And so yeah, I think I would like to ask about the possible solutions that you think might be to dissolve this stereotypical mentality that we've created.
I think the best, as you told, as you said before, like there are a lot of things which people associate certain things that are associated with technology. Like if you say Chat GPT, yeah, it sounds like a something complex technology, or
Mhm.
let's say even a galaxy or
Mhm.
space science. These things sound like very complex scenarios, and it gives the answer or why people cannot understand general theory of relativity. Don't mind, I don't understand it either, but The example is basically why people don't understand it, because there are no real life examples of these things which you can relate to.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So let's say a galaxy is a spiral,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very hard to imagine. Okay, what kind of spiral it is? It's not something like. But if you let's say if it's a jalebi or
Mm-hmm.
a chakli, like if you give them the example of which is a real time, it is
Mm-hmm.
much easier to reciprocate to that and understand. There, you don't need a technology. You just need
Hmm.
simple imagination.
This is that because that thing is just physical and in front of me, in my vision. Is that the reason why it
Yes.
is? Okay.
Yes, definitely it
Mm-hmm.
is, because something, if you cannot imagine a space-time curvature and these things, and you cannot, because we don't experience that day to daytime, like daily. See,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain people, certain tribes in Africa. They don't have certain letters or certain words because they don't have them around them, or they haven't used them for generations together,
Right.
because
Right.
they were evolved like that. Similarly, if we want to experience and imagine something, we need to have a x to y comparison or y to z comparison to be like that. So when you say Himalayas, you instantly know some mountains, some tall mountains, because we have learned it, we have seen it through pictures, images, xyz. But when
Mm-hmm.
you say, okay, space-time curvature, a star is massive, but
Hmm.
what is the massiveness? What is the scale? You don't understand that. That's why we have all these YouTubers explaining the video of solar system
Mm-hmm.
sizes and all of these
I
stuff.
see. I see. Mm-hmm.
And you don't need technology for that. When I'm teaching the third grader or a fourth grader astronomy, I cannot
Mm-hmm.
even use words like, you know, something complex. Let's say I say orbital mechanics just by
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah.
The kid's next question would be, what is orbital mechanics? Then I would try to over explain, because that's the tendency of humans to over explain things when somebody is not aware of that term, and then you keep
Uh
on
huh.
making these terms which the kids will not understand, and you're in a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
especially with the kids, I would say, you're standing in front of a machine gun or a firing squad
Mm-hmm.
where they're
Mm-hmm.
firing thousands of bullets like questions at you, and you cannot shoot them down, because that will uh, get down their morale, or they will be
Hmm.
too afraid to ask the question, so you cannot do either of that.
Right.
But then you cannot use the complex words to explain the same thing either.
Mm-hmm. So
So
So, are you saying that the sentence that you made, humans tend to over explain complex stuff, right? So, are you saying that we tend to explain things over, for example, provide extra content more than we might want to give, because we think that will make things even easier for the person in front of us to understand that? Is that because of
indeed,
our intuition? And that
it's
intuition is
it's because
basically
of
wrong,
our intuition.
and
Oh,
it's
you don't
wrong
understand
basically.
this,
Yeah,
let me explain it to you.
uh-huh.
And then you keep on going in the over explanation spiral, and then you've lost the essence of it.
Yeah, I see.
And that's just, I think that's just part of human nature. It's not like we do it willingly or it is a personal trait, but we do
Mm-hmm.
that every now and then. We
Mm-hmm.
over explain things to some, let's say, a grandmother who doesn't understand about mobiles. We gave like we keep on explaining thousand things about technology, but she just wants to send a message.
I see, I see. I think that's something that I even do with my parents at times. um I don't know why this is, but yeah. So you've explained the problems that we have, that kids might be facing, even a student on the personal level might be facing when getting explained some form of topic, some form of aspect by another educator, someone who is sort of more advanced and more familiarized with that particular topic. What? But I still don't think I have the answer to the question that I have. What are the possible solutions that we can bring to this? Like, even like I'm talking to you one to one, right? If you just start hitting complex you know terms to me, I will not understand that, right? I will be completely out of sight. I will completely get bored. I would rather say I'm not understanding things, and that would make the conversation very blunt and very bad to hear, right?
Correct, correct.
So what are the
uh,
possible solutions? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One
Continue.
possible solution, like I can think of two three different solutions, but the one possible solution is basically dialing it down. One is what
Mhm.
we should realize,
Mhm.
basically, like, to get into the stuff, while dialing it down, you should get into the kids space, or anybody's space you're explaining it to. You have to get
Mhm.
into their space
Mhm.
and be the kid, or be the 10th grader, or be the 12th grader, or
Mhm.
a older guy probably who doesn't understand. But you have to be in that space, their space, where they feel comfortable about the scenarios. Then
Mhm.
you can explain them. One.
Right, right.
And the second would be, second solution, what I think is, uh, we do lack, because we never taught. Like, I am a science communicator. The company I'm working with, most of us are science communicators, and we dearly lack the science communication part in
Mhm.
India.
Yeah.
Second part would be to get more science communicators on board. There are only few of us, and we have been self-taught. All of us have been self-taught. There are no science communication courses, or how science should be taught, how
Right.
to make it interesting. Either there are, like, astrophysics or the PhD level guys who are
Mhm.
doing really great job at what they do, but they cannot
Mhm.
communicate with the people,
Mhm.
and people cannot understand them, because they're like, this is something way out of my league, and why should I talk to this guy?
I see.
So,
Mhm.
back in the 90s, Carl Sagan did this a very good job of bridging two communities, and right now Neil deGrasse Tyson is doing a great job in US. But in India, we are in dire need of these science communicators, where we have to learn how to engage with people.
Mhm.
Even if I'm saying I know how to handle kids, I would prefer, or I would definitely would love to have a mentor or a guide who can teach me how to do these things better, because he has more experience
So
than
I
me.
I think if you're particularly talking about India, I would say because India is not a scientific society, right? If people in India don't believe in STEM, like I can't go walk around and talk about maybe let's say a nitrogen bomb is 4 times more explosive than a dynamite. Who cares? It's like that. People will say, but I do care if you are talking about the strotum of Shiva. Okay, I do care about the pujas that you're doing. So I think that's the problem we are facing. It's a cultural shift we are talking about. We have to make that, and that's possibly one of the hardest questions and hardest problems that one can face. How do you bring a cultural shift in a wide economy in such a vast and diverse society? That's one of the biggest challenges one can face, I would say. And what I've seen so far is only someone with a certain amount of power and credibility and leverage of audience, I would say, right? For example, even a politician, maybe somebody who's very popular, somebody very influential, somebody very
Yes.
respectful, very respected, uh, can only do that. That's what I think is the possible solution to it. Yeah, I would love to know your take on that.
Yes, a person who is in power, or who is in charge, or who can make things happen, is definitely a person we should look up to, and they can definitely make a change. Recently, I had a personal experience of that being done here. Our district collector here in Coimbatore,
Mhm.
he was really interested in the revitalizing, or restarting our regional science center here,
Mhm.
and he personally got involved in the project. He took interest in how we can do it, and we work together. We are currently, in the last 6 to 8 months, we got a lot of underprivileged kids, or the people, not people, the students from the government schools coming to the regional science center, and we, as educators, we went on to explaining them whatever is happening in different sections of the regional science center. And yes, you need those people who can make it happen. And that was a wonderful experience because I did not expect it to happen at such a rapid phase, because he genuinely took the interest and he made it happen.
How many kids were there?
Each week we had about 100 kids coming up, and we were doing this for 6 months. So probably, let's say 4 into 6, 24, 25. So about 2,500 to 3,000 students.
That's a really good number, right?
Yeah,
Almost an urban school, a mid-sized and urban school. That's
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So, like, you met them personally, and you were convincing things and conveying all the knowledge personally to them.
Uh, yes and no, because the I'm not that well versed in Tamil, and most of these kids were from the government school. So I
Mm-hmm.
was involved in the activities, whatever planned, but directly communicating is what one thing which I wasn't involved, because I'm not that well versed in Tamil. But
Mm-hmm.
my fellow educators and my co-founder, all of them were continuously involved. And whenever there were schools where the kids could speak better English, or I could understand their questions and reply back them in English, there I was completely involved.
I see. Right. So you gave solution number one: get in the kid's shoes, uh,
Yes.
understand the kid's space, know what the kid knows, probably nothing. Don't try to be an expert in front of someone who knows nothing. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Solution number two was what was it? I haven't noted it down. By the way.
Solution number two would be getting into the no, don't explain. That was the first thing. Even I forgot. Oh, just a minute. Completely blew off my
Okay,
mind.
you. I think it was about science communication, increasing science
Yeah.
communication in
Yeah.
India.
The dire lack of
Okay, okay,
science
yeah,
communicators in the country.
yeah. So the country in specifically India, I would say, I think lacks. I mean, yeah, we all have seen a lot of science communication used to be. Um, isn't that also about the media? I would say, how many times have like I've seen Neil deGrasse Tyson visit a lot of very popular talk shows in the United States. For example, the late night talk show with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel. I think there's one Jimmy Fallon, right? And all of these talk shows have brought people who are into the STEM field, not just actors and Hollywood people, right? How many times have you seen a STEM educator or a scientific person who has done really great in those fields on Kapil Sharma show? Almost zero,
Never seen
right?
that.
Ne- Almost zero. So that's I think the cultural shift we want to bring. If the amount of audience Kapil Sharma or people having the amount of influence like Kapil Sharma, I'm just talking about him, or with the example of him, have the opportunity to give such an amount of leverage to these people, they can do a lot of stuff by providing an audience to these people, and that's not happening.
That's
Wh- uh,
definitely not happening.
how do we solve that? Because I don't think that's a political solution. We can have a political solution to that, right? What can
That's
we
a
bring to that?
cultural shift where people are not really interested, as you told earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
we have to do something about that. But there comes the mentality of majority of the people, where people crave for the entertainment, and where they think science is not entertaining. We have
Mm-hmm.
detached every subject from each other in a way that, be
Mm-hmm.
it our education system, be it in general way of thinking, like everything is different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Science is different, arts is different, everything is different. So
Hmm.
people don't associate science
With
with
art.
arts, but that's a major part of art, because that's how you think and that's how
Yeah,
science
yeah,
happens. Like
yeah.
people think these are two disconnected things,
So you
even with
saying
the
critical
money.
thinking with creative thinking is what we don't have
We
in
lack of, and
integration.
we
Yeah.
people don't relate to these things. And what Neil deGrasse Tyson does is he just throws in away fun facts.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I've
why
seen
he
that.
enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he bashes people, all these movies who has done the science horribly wrong. It's just a way of having fun, and that's something people have to understand. And I think we can bring that content. It's not just about media being thing. We need those kind of people who can do that, and people who are willing to take that. And once
I'll
we,
plug in some of Neil deGrasse Tyson's videos in the middle.
yes,
In the
sure.
edit. Yeah. Yeah. Continue.
So that's we have to do. And the people who are there are
Mm-hmm.
probably some content creators. They have to work together with these giants in the media to
Mm-hmm.
make it happen. So the fields are not really, separated from each other the way we think they were, or
Mm-hmm.
they are not really. Like, there
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of everything you can associate with astronomy these days. People are coming with a lot of new fields, which I personally learned last year from a fellow friend. She introduced me to astrobiology and extremophiles,
Okay.
uh,
What is that?
where you go to the Antarctica and study different these basically bacterias and microbes who can
Yeah.
survive
In
extreme
extreme
temperatures,
conditions. Yeah. Yeah.
extreme conditions, and then how you can model your data. And like, data modeling basically is done to search life outside of the earth, like,
Hmm.
because of the extreme temperatures.
Hmm.
That is, I personally wasn't aware of, and she introduced me to that. So these are the fun things you have to bring to them. And that's something, probably, I'm not sure if the media can do it, but alternative media can definitely do it.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Twitter, maybe, like the content creators who are doing it. Like, right now, Spotify is a great platform. What do you have here? The things we have been talking
Mm-hmm.
can definitely be made into a proper thing, where
Yeah.
people are just doing this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
already we are doing that, but you know what? In a way where you were talking, just invite somebody and just talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's because I think even, for example, you're saying that growing the idea of science communication in the country, we are bringing big media in collaboration with the small media, but the small media is very niched, having a lot of experts into it. The big media doesn't have experts, but have a lot of leverage. So bringing
Yes.
these two can do a lot of bring a lot of wonders to the whole industry. I get that. The problem with, for example, even with podcasting over here, and specifically science fields and STEM fields, this is very detailed and niche down. I don't think I have particularly heard any other show that is that goes so much into detail. Like, for example, we are still on the question number one, right? Just goes
Yeah.
into so much detail into one singular topic. I haven't heard of it, and that's why I think a lot of people that are very enthusiastic, they get it. People who are not, which is actually greater in population, won't be resonating with it. And that's a problem that I think we have faced as science educators and STEM educators and STEM outreaches so far. How so? This question brings up into the conversation is that even when science is such a niche down and such a field where you need a lot of knowledge beforehand to understand a few things, how do you even integrate some of the knowledge that we have about science and STEM into the minds of people who know nothing about it?
uh That's a very interesting question. So I think, again, I'll go back to my first point where I made it like, you need to make it relatable. Even without the knowledge, you can make it relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an interesting example where I tried to do that. I'm not sure I'm successful, but I tried to do that. A girl from fourth grade asked me this particular question, and the question was very intricate, because they have seen the YouTube videos, they are aware of a lot of things. So her
Mm-hmm.
question was, Earth's population has been increasing, and we have to move to the Mars.
Ideally, yeah.
Like, some of us would have to move to Mars because we are running out of the resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do we survive on Mars? Was her question. Now, that's a very intricate question for a fourth grader, to be honest, because
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of this question.
Mm-hmm.
Even I was in fourth grade, I was not aware.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, uh, I have to give her an answer. I can definitely give her an answer, but I cannot use the word biosphere, biodome,
Mm-hmm.
to make her understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But still, she needs the answer to satisfy her own curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So what I told her was, I asked her a few questions, like,
Mm-hmm.
Do you have AC at home? I'm like, she's like, yeah, I have a AC at home.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you do, like, how do you use it? She's like, I turn on the main switch, then set the temperature to 24, 25 degrees, and just start using it. Then I asked her, like, how do you use the AC? Like, is it when it's cold, like, if the everything is opened, or you close the bedroom?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I have to close the bedroom and shut the door, otherwise it will not get cool. Like, it will not get colder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I told her, like, imagine we'll build a big room on the Mars, let's say a large room where we
Mm-hmm.
fit all these things, and
Mm-hmm.
then we probably install few trees around it, and then we start getting the oxygen from them. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see, like, to give her an example, and we start building more and more rooms
Mm-hmm.
to connect these things, and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we can start living on the Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really satisfied with the answers. So here, probably, I'm not sure. I'd done few things wrong as well. If
Yeah,
you are
I would
talking,
say, do recognize a few things that might have been wrong in that answer. Yeah.
so I know that, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you have to do this particular thing where you have to give them some answer to satisfy
Yeah.
their curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes answer can be superficial,
Okay.
very superficial,
Right.
because people don't understand the complexity, and when the superficial answer satisfies their curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
then they move on to the next part of finding the answer.
Right. And what is the next part?
The next part is basically they go back to their home, they search for the same thing, and she
Mm-hmm.
did.
Yeah. Right.
And she saw the movie Martian, and she came
Oh.
back and she told me, Anna, I
Mm-hmm.
saw the Martian movie. He
Mm-hmm.
grows potato out of his own shit, literally. And she was really amazed by the fact that you can grow that thing by your own thing. Like, that was the most entertaining part for her. So now I don't, I have given some wrong answers, but she's on the right path,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
now she will pursue whatever she wants in
Mm-hmm.
that path, and whenever she comes to me, I can give her more detailed answers.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the basic idea of sparking curiosity into someone's mind to know something is what we
Yes,
require. Mm.
and that is a very superficial answer. It's not a satisfiable answer, but it has to be superficial. It has to be that hook that will bring the curiosity out of you to me, or me to you, whatever, whoever is doing the stuff.
Mm-hmm. I
Did you
see.
see this? Did you see that? Is it
Mm-hmm.
interesting, like these things?
Right. Right. Okay. One of the most challenging problems educators worldwide face today, no matter where they come from, who they are, and what education system they teach, is how can they balance the need for scientific accuracy and rigor in space education with the desire to engage and excite learners of all ages and backgrounds.
That's a very hard problem we are tackling right now, because all of these kids who are in the space right now, in
Hmm.
the city
Hmm.
kids, I'm not talking about some tribal kids, or
Hmm.
who doesn't have access to the internet. That's a different topic altogether. But who have the
Hmm.
access, they they don't know. There is no filter on the content. You type astronomy, you get hundreds of thousands of video. Some of them are wrong, most of them are wrong. Sorry,
Yeah.
only some of them are right, most of them are wrong.
Hmm.
And there is no filter to that. So they get they watch these videos, they come back to you, and they ask these questions, whatever is been the video. Because in the last 10 years, I've seen this trend. Basically, whatever is on video is true,
Hmm.
because it's there, because it's online. There is whatever is on YouTube is true, is what people are feeling.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. Mhm. I see
So
what the
they come
problem is.
back to you.
Hmm.
Technically, to be honest, educators' roles have narrowed down to one thing: to teach kids what to filter and how to filter. Because learning
Hmm.
is a
Hmm.
self
Mhm.
process. you you
Mhm.
you cannot teach anybody these days.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even in the back in the day, it's just a experimentation of the stuff,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
these days it's everything is available, right? As educators, technically
Mhm.
our roles have been finished.
Mhm.
Like, how do you teach? But the only thing you can tell them is the
Mhm.
if from what to filter and how to filter.
Right.
So then they come back to you and then they ask, Anna, this is that. Is it right?
I
And
see.
most of the answer, 99% of the answer, my answer goes like, no, it's not right.
Mhm.
It's wrong.
Mhm.
I, uh, I remember on 27th of March or 28th of March, there was this guy on Instagram. I don't know who it is. He makes these reels. New event is coming up. 5 planets are lining up in the night
Okay.
sky, or something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And many people saw that, and hundreds of people called us. When are you setting up to do this? I'm
Mhm.
like, the planets are not visible. You have to
Uh-huh.
be somewhere on the seashore probably to see Mercury and Jupiter because they're very close to the horizon.
Mhm.
Uh, Uranus you cannot see with naked eyes.
I see.
So when people say the 5 planets are visible, there has to be an asterisk, or there somebody, I would say, please start a YouTube channel or a Instagram channel who copies his reels and gives them asterisks. Yes, that is possible, but in XYZ conditions.
Okay, so I think the problem that the content creator would himself or herself face over here is how much can we provide in 60 seconds mere worth of
Yes,
content, right? How much can you provide in one single video? We are having a conversation that may last an hour, right? Even more, depends.
correct,
But how much can you even give in 60 seconds? Almost nothing. You can only give the idea of what it is on the surface, right?
correct. So they're doing a brilliant job in the first part I'm talking about, where you have to have a superficial approach to get people hooked in.
Mm-hmm.
But then there is a concern of just doing that will just be, everybody's just into superficial content, and that is not happening. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the astronomy gets disappointing, where people
Mm-hmm.
come to the observational astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
People have looked at all these images from Hubble and James Webb and all these very interesting astrophotographers,
Mm-hmm.
which look beautiful and colorful. And when they come to the telescope and put their eye to the telescope, all these galaxies and nebulae just look like a white smudgy patch with some details on it. And they're like, where are the details? Where are the colors? I'm like, yeah, human eyes are not designed for that. Whatever you will see
Yeah.
is just black and white stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the disappointment starts, because they've come with that hooked up mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then the disappointment is bottomed out. And then you again, from that point onwards, there are very few people who keep, or they're they're keenly interested in pursuing it further, because they're like, oh, this is the realistic thing, now this is what my expectation should be, and then they
Mm-hmm.
take a path.
Okay, so let's say one out of every 10 people are actually interested in about knowing the thing,
Yes, yes, yes.
and
So
only
hooked in.
then will they go to some other
Yes.
site and to make the information legit.
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
so you're saying the idea of educators around the world has now become to how to differentiate and distinguish legit information from rumors,
Yep.
right? I think that's a problem that not only you are facing as educators. I would say that is something that almost everybody faces. What if the media on Twitter, like, can you even tell what is true on Twitter? No, right? In
No.
fact, I think there's a data that says rumors and wrong information spread multifold times. I don't remember the exact number, but multiple times faster on Twitter than the real information, right?
Yes.
So that's a problem that everybody is facing in every sort of sector, from social media, content creation, education, STEM fields,
Yeah.
or any form of education in any specific field. That's a problem very hard to solve, to be honest. I've also discussed about that on LinkedIn with some of my connections or some of the people I've engaged with online. But even they have their very organizations who are actually trying to solve this thing. How do we differentiate rumors from actual information and then give them to people? probably providing them with a portal, probably a website, a platform where they could actually find legit information, by providing them legit information on half the page and providing them the rumor on half the page, what the rumor is and what the legit information is. And they are still able to not find the right solution to it, because the amount of rumors that can be done is like 20 H.C. Verma books, and the amount of alleged
Yeah, the number
information is
of
like one
just
book, right? The ratio is just
comparatively quite less.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The the ratio is just too much. There is no competition between the number of rumors and the number of legit information
Yes.
related to that thing. I think, yeah. Um, Moving on, in what ways can space education help foster critical thinking and problem solving skills, and how can we measure the effectiveness of these outcomes?
Critical skills would be, I would tell you in a different thing. It's just not astronomy, because this
Hmm.
I'll tell you on a very personal experience of
I see.
what we have been doing.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
So we do something called as life skill expeditions.
Hmm.
And where life skill expeditions are where we take the kids to Madumalai Forest, which is a remote location which
Hmm.
borders the Madumalai Tiger Reserve.
Ah.
And their kids are in a very hostile environment per se, because it's not familiar to them.
Hmm.
And we control the experience.
Hmm.
So, from building a tent
Hmm.
to observing the skies where everything is turned off around you, you're in a pitch black darkness,
Hmm.
to be aware of your surroundings. All
Hmm.
of these combines into the life skills they have lost. And even
Okay.
the space education, our parents have looked to the night sky quite often than we do, because we have
Hmm.
been living in a
Hmm.
light polluted world
Hmm.
for a long
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And most of the kids these days have lost a basic sense of directions, uh,
Hmm.
left, right, up, down, how to navigate, because they have been using the Google Maps for a long time.
Yeah.
They just say Google it. I'm like,
Hmm.
no, you have to find your own way. You have taught kids to use latitude longitudes to find the positions,
Hmm.
because that's how the Google Map works in
Hmm.
principle.
Hmm.
And they have lost this skill. So all of these smaller things will solve them, like to be, I'm not saying better persons, but to be just as good as what we are, because I know how to navigate. I can navigate without the maps, based on the locations I remember and the places I have in my head, because I observe. And people have lost the observation part.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
tell, like, this is a very interesting term. I'll tell you. There's a very
Hmm.
huge difference between seeing and observing. We
Yeah,
don't
sure.
observe. We
Sure.
have lost the patience of observation. We're
Hmm.
like, "Okay, this is not happening. I'm
Hmm.
seeing that thing, but that's not happening." No, but you have to take the patience. Even I lose my patience sometimes. I'm not saying even the lost kids does, but that's where the difference between uh, observation comes and the seeing comes.
Hmm.
And most of us are just seeing things,
Hmm.
and that we have lost our analytical skill of observation. Anything we lost, we don't get to see the details. We don't remember things. We are like, these things can be solved with space education or the astronomy education what we do, because it engulfs the experience. The astronomy is what you can say. You can basically teach all of these things separately. Astronomy is one part which engulfs this experience into an exciting one. So if I am teaching you, or we are learning lens, we have all learned lenses and the lens equations and mirrors and stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't remember, or most of the people who have learned this don't remember them, because it's no use for them, right? And it's boring. But what if I tell you, do you know how telescope works? You have to learn about the mirrors, or you have to learn about the lenses. So, from the perspective of a telescope, suddenly the same boring lenses becomes interesting, because it has
Yeah.
given an approach.
Hmm.
Oh, if I want to know how a telescope works, then I want to learn this. Then it can be taught in a very, again, superficial way or a very simpler way. Then they can go into the details of, let's say, parabolic mirror, hyperbolic mirrors, the complex curves. That can be taught later. But first, again, we can hook them in. And suddenly, the cotton candy, the astronomy is basically, or space education is basically the cotton candy to make rest of this boring, mundane things interesting, is I would say.
I see. Uh, Sorry for the background noise that you all heard. There's some construction going on, but I'll try to edit it and try to reduce it as much as I can. Okay. So we've been seeing very few players in the space sector, right? But I'd love to know what role can space education play in promoting global collaboration and understanding how can we ensure that access to space knowledge is equitable and inclusive for all nations, like the world level collaboration and global, because we just talked about how America and the West have done it very well by providing their science communicators with platforms. Neil deGrasse Tyson has millions of followers on social media across platforms, on Twitter, on YouTube. Has got millions of views. Carl Sagan, we know Dr. Feynman in the past. So these people have been science communicators for life, and they have been promoted. Their ideas have been promoted all through the way. It hasn't happened in especially Asian countries till now, especially South Asian countries like India, Sri Lanka, even some parts of China. But China is still doing a great job of it, because I see a lot of Chinese uh, content creators and science communicators uh, talk about, if not just space, but about other scientific fields. I just saw, like, before this interview itself, I just saw a video on Chat GPT and how a Chinese school and a Chinese science educator and an entrepreneur is trying to integrate Chat GPT into students' lives by making them use Chat GPT in an ethical way rather than allowing them to cheat through it. Because a
Correct.
lot of people are thinking that Chat GPT is a tool through which students will be able to cheat for getting answers, or maybe writing answers and doing their homework. But how do we use it in an ethical way to actually find information and interpret our own solutions to the problem? These are some of the solutions that other countries are coming up with. But yeah, India doesn't have anything like that pretty much. So yeah, my question to you is, how do we promote global collaboration into this?
I think the global collaboration would be getting the first, we can reduce the parity or disparity, to be honest, to between the kids in here in India, because there is a lot of disparity. I've taught the kids here in international school in Coimbatore. I've taught kids in Ladakh, and I've taught kids in Central Maharashtra, the tribal kids. So the difference between here is the kids here will question me, Anna, where is the? I know who landed the second mission or the third Apollo mission on the moon and the name of those astronauts, which I particularly don't know, because I cannot process that information. I'm not able to go and read it, but these kids can because they have time. And the kids in the tribal areas, the Central Maharashtra where I was working with, when I started, I asked them, "Do you know who's the first man on the moon?" So out of 50, 60 kids, one answer I got was maybe Neil Armstrong. So there is that huge gap between the kids in India themselves, and which we have to reduce first by just um telling them, because I would say the kids, the tribal kids where I was teaching, they have a larger set where I can make more impact, because I got a fresh slate. I don't have to uh, rely on them what they know. I know they don't know anything, so I can start fresh. I can build them to a level where I want them to be. And these kids obviously have better access to YouTube and whatnot, so they can, I just have to be around to, or the everybody in this space have to be around them to guide them in a way they want. but first we have to start building where the rural kids are, and there you can build up faster and better, because they they're hungry for the knowledge. They don't know anything and they want that. When you do that, when everybody is probably at the same level in India, not same, but let's say comparative levels in India, then we can start talking about how we can do the same integration with other communities around the globe. Like as they say, global north and global south. The developed countries are obviously called global north, and all the developing countries are global south. This particular thing, I think the way I think can be solved is with storytelling, because humans always connect with the stories. And I think astronomy per se is the greatest story ever told. We have been looking at the stars for last 50,000 years. We have got the drawings for last 20,000 years. We made the shapes. People ask me, how is that a bull? I'm not sure. Our ancestors said it. We can make our own shapes. And if you go to, let's say, Mayans or Mayan civilization, they have completely different shapes because their skies is different and their constellations are different. So let's say Mayans is an example because it's a great example to put in against the Western society, or what we perceive as the Western things, what the names we use for, and the Mayans have a very different name. Even Indians have a different name and different stories. So when we start talking as a global society to each other, and when we tell the stories, this is called that. That is what this is, and these stories will bring them together, or us together, is what I think. The stories will uh, help us to get a inclusiveness in terms of space or astronomy or any of the STEM education.
And the problem that you're stating is bringing storytelling to kids, in
Yeah.
particular. These kids have not yet become responsible and independent for themselves till now, right? They don't
Yes.
have their access. They do know how to use technologies, but they don't have the access to it unless and until they are allowed to, right? Unless
Correct.
they have a guardian, a parent, for themselves to look after them. And I think if you could bring a possible solution to the problem where we are able to discuss storytelling, the idea of storytelling, and how kids can benefit via storytelling about this specific field to spark their interest in that field, and convince it to the parents and the guardians of those students, I think that would just bring in more smoothness into the system. That would reduce the resistance, because I think, as you were answering the question that I asked, I was thinking of this problem all along the way, because I was very convinced with what you said about storytelling and all that stuff, because the idea of podcasting is also very related to storytelling. You are telling stories about this kid or that kid, how they learned. She watched a
Exactly.
Martian
Yes.
movie, Martian movie to learn about this and all of that stuff. But yeah, this is the problem that I was facing as a kid. That I was bound with studying scholastics and school education, but I also had my interest in other fields. And this is a possible solution. This is a possible problem that I think almost every other kid who wishes to go into other fields not related to what they are studying in school faces. What do you think we can do about it?
Uh, I think that would, if you the answer to that solution would be changing the education system from ground up. One, that is not a possible or plausible solution. But how to bring storytelling to the kids, to the convincing to the parents would be, have them experience the same thing as the kid does. Usually for the stargazing, whatever we have done, even a parent comes along to accompany them or to pick them up later in the night, and I've seen that their enthusiasm is sparked. Oh, there is a telescope. Oh, I want to watch it too. And they, same way as your parents or my parents didn't let me, or technically my parents did, to be honest. That's why I'm here.
Mhm.
but their parents also didn't let them to pursue whatever they wanted.
Mhm.
And suddenly there is something which excites them as well as the kids.
Mhm.
So now suddenly they're interested. Oh, what do you do? What is this? So can I take a look? Can I also watch the moon? And when they're done watching, they're really convinced this is something good for my kid.
Yeah.
It is much harder to convince a kid's parents who are in a tribal region, or who belongs to, let's say, not so well-to-do family, because they have a lot of other issues at the hand. They're like, okay,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
my kid will
I
start
understand
watching
with that.
that. That's a very different affair altogether.
Tribal people, I think they're barely even trying to do all of this because their first of all solution, so first of all problem to solve is how do we survive,
How to
right?
survive, yeah. So for them this convincing is not gonna work, and they'll be like, but what should I eat tomorrow? That's a different problem altogether, which I personally cannot solve and I don't have an answer to. And I cannot justify why don't you send your kid to learn astronomy, because he wants to is not an answer, because they have different problems. But where these things have been good enough, the
Mm-hmm.
parents also are willing to do that, and there I can give them an answer why. I can give them a why not answer rather than
Mm-hmm.
why. I can
Mm-hmm.
give them an answer which is why not.
Mm-hmm. Why not teach them?
Why
Right.
not teach them? Do you have us the thing? So it's a thing. Okay, why not? And the why not answer will be a better answer, in the sense that I don't have to convince them in telling them, okay, you should do this. Do you know why? Okay, XYZ things. I don't have to give them n number of reasons. I just have to tell them why not.
Mm-hmm.
And why not is more convincing for the most of the people, because the rest of the answer has been answered. Because why not?
Right. Uh, we have talked through this conversation a lot about tribals and how you are impacting tribal people's lives um, by educating their kids and educating them about astrophotography and astronomy. Could you give me, if you are comfortable with it, how you're doing it?
That's a very interesting or hard question, because again, as I told you, they come from a different demographic where you don't have a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have. It's a fresh slate.
Mm-hmm.
So you start telling them a story about something completely different. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the first time I went to the school, I remember I
Mm-hmm.
asked them, or we asked them, what
Mm-hmm.
are your dreams?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I want to be a IPS or IS officer, or
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Because with IPS or IS officer who have visited their village or who have come along, they've
Mm-hmm.
seen the power. There are people around him, and they have that things in mind. So we were discussing about these things,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it got to the point where we had to convince them, why don't you check out this thing as well, the
Mm-hmm.
astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what will it come up with? What is the cost
Yeah,
benefit
yeah.
of,
What is the ROI? Mm-hmm.
what is the ROI?
Mm-hmm.
So then when you get the fame and when you introduce him to different things, so this will happen, that will happen. They weren't, I would say, they weren't convinced,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, some of the answers changed in the way that, okay, I might consider this as well, which I personally call a success.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing we are trying to do in Ladakh, where the thing is in Ladakh, since 2008, Ladakh has been going through two different phases.
Mm-hmm.
After Three Idiots, the Ladakh tourism landscape changed.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to hop on a bullet and go to Pangong Lake.
Uh-huh.
So those have been the years of 10 years of Ladakh prosperity and the tourism sector booming up.
Mm-hmm.
From the 2017-18, for the last 5 years, Ladakh has been going into the second phase of tourism, where they go for these winter trips, where most of the foreigners are now wealthy Indians pay these people to get into these -30, -40 degree temperatures to go on winter tourism or winter trekking. One is Chadar trek, where you walk on the frozen river. The second is you go hunting the snow leopards, which is one of the rarest animal to spot anywhere in the world. So these two things were there. This is where Ladakh sector thrived, and now they want to know the third thing or the next best thing. You might be knowing the Hanle, or Hanle has been like named as a dark sky reserve. The whole part has been as a dark sky sanctuary. So there will be development
Mm-hmm.
which is controlled by the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Government of Ladakh, and Government of India. So the second part would be we had to convince these people who are interested how astronomy or learning astronomy can make you money as well, because they're like, we are already making money with the tourism sector, we are already making money with the bikes rental or lot of other things. So there we had faced this issue and we are trying to solve that. Okay, but this is a new sector which is coming up, you need something new, and many people will jump and they'll start, probably I'm hopeful to um, get into astronomy or at least get into telescopes, like buy telescopes and keep it, because Ladakh is a huge place, and outside of Leh you have darkest skies in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're blessed with the dark skies, and you can put a telescope anywhere in Ladakh and just start doing astronomy whenever it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And Ladakh has, because it's a cold desert, you're benefited with the clear skies of the uh, like majority of the part of the year you are blessed with clear skies, so you can do astronomy majority part of the year. And I'm hopeful they'll start doing it, let's see, but that was a very hard part to convince, like uh, it was very hard,
Right.
because the question is, like, the answer is why should I do it, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm already comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And when people or humans or everybody of us, when we get comfortable, we don't want to
Mm-hmm.
change.
Uh-huh.
We're like,
Uh-huh.
this is perfectly fine with me, why would I
Mm-hmm.
change?
Uh-huh. And who are these people asking these questions? Are these the students or are these the parents of these kids?
Parents, students, small business owners who own the business, basically they are the parents, and
Mm-hmm.
also the school kids.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are asking the questions, like,
See.
why should we do it,
Mm-hmm.
what is the point of getting into this thing?
Mm-hmm.
So when one of the kids get into it, or one of the few people will find the success because they are the only one doing it, rest of the
Mm-hmm.
people will jump on the train.
Uh-huh. So it's like this: if one of the kids or one of these students in a village becomes a very prominent and a very powerful IS officer, everybody gets inspired to become one.
Yes.
It's like that. So that's what you're saying. If somebody becomes very successful in either of these fields, in astronomy and astrophysics, they will inspire everybody else in in their locals to pursue the same.
To
Uh,
pursue the same.
that's a great solution to it. That's a great answer. Okay, I'm gonna buy that. So, okay, math in particular, mathematics as a
Yeah.
subject, math has caused a lot of anxiety, and is something very super common. Math anxiety in particular is something very
Yes.
super common in countries like United States, and even in India, especially. Yeah, right. You see it in
Yeah.
front of you, right? Because you're an educator, I would say. Very prominent in these countries. We find very few kids who genuinely love math from the beginning, and mind you, I'm not one of those kids, to be honest. My opinion is that the way we teach math to kids is the reason behind it all. Why they don't get interested into it, why they start disliking it, why they start resenting from it, you know. uh, but I'd like to know what you think might be the reason we've seen such an uprise in the number of children disliking the particular subject of math.
Since if you talk, like, if we go back to, like, 90s kids, the generation I belong to, and where I have learned maths, it has been taught a subject like that. It's again, it's something you do. You
Correct.
never got an answer. Why are you doing it? Why are you multiplying? Why are you
Mm-hmm.
differentiating?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever the operation is. You're just
Mhm.
doing it. You're just
Mhm.
crunching the numbers
Mhm.
to get an
Mhm.
answer, and eventually
Mhm.
the answer gets you the marks.
Mhm.
That's it. That's how the language of mathematics has been.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
mathematics should have been comprised, or should have been in a way like, if you learn this,
Mhm.
because they
Mhm.
say the universe language of universe is physics, and language of physics is mathematics. So if you go by these things, let's say, why do you learn physics? So
Mhm.
to understand this particular thing, you may need to do this, is what should have been there, and there should have been given enough importance to this particular thing of bridging the gap. Why you're doing this? Like,
Mhm.
what's I remember one of the kids in back in the day in my school
Mhm.
asked one of the teachers, "What is pi, or why do you use it?"
Mhm.
They gave the answer, because it's defined. Now, if you Google, there's a very
Mhm.
beautiful channel, three brown, one blue. I don't know if you know the channel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do. I do. Three one one
So
blue.
they
Mhm.
that guy, even I enjoy personally his videos, because it interprets you. It again
Mhm.
lets you visualize what math is, and then suddenly it becomes interesting, right? Why do you
Mhm.
differentiate? Okay, because it's area under the curve. Or why?
Mhm.
Sorry, why do you integrate?
Mhm.
Because it's area
Mhm.
under the curve.
Forget integration and calculus. He was explaining why minus one in addition to minus one is minus two. It's something very basic, right? But he was
Yes,
explaining it very well. Like going so much into detail and so much deep into a very something that is very obvious to us as of now, right? And
and
that's the thing. Yeah, yeah. Continue.
that's what we were lacking, and
Mhm.
it was never told as, it was just the language of
Mhm.
mathematics was to get marks
Mhm.
or to get answers.
I think
It was
the phrase that they use is mathematics is a very scoring subject, something like
Yeah.
that, right? Yeah.
So
Mhm.
if you do that, then you're
Mhm.
never going to get an answer, or never going to get an explanation, which is to make
Mhm.
it interesting enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what it caused the anxiety, because
Mhm.
most of the people are average at something and best at something, and our
Mhm.
education system pushes us to be best at everything, and which we cannot be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some people are just good at arts, and after our engineering, or probably now it will dial out down to 10th or 12th grade, but most of us enjoyed or explored our things after engineering. Oh, I think I'm interested in this, I'm not interested in that, right? So it took a lot of time to go there, and then if it was like from the bottom, you would have been like this. Okay, this is how, why you learn mathematics, this is how it makes interesting. Again, the storytelling plays a major role in the things, because I remember some of the languages teachers I had, they were very experienced teacher, like they had 30-35 years of experience. They never taught us from the book, because they had a lot of experience, and they used to tell the stories, and that's how you the language was taught. And similarly, mathematics can also be taught as a language, like as a part of the storytelling structure. And when you teach anything as a part of storytelling, or conversations,
Mhm. Mhm.
suddenly every boundary goes apart, and then you can teach any of the complex subject without having any issue. And
Okay.
that's how we can reduce the anxiety. I'm not sure we can do it for 100% of the people, but right now 90% of the kids have anxiety, 10% are doing good. We can reduce that number to 50%.
Mhm.
That's a win-win.
Um, I think the amount of engineers that India produces a year is greater than the population of Switzerland. Okay.
Yeah.
So we see this uprise in the number of engineers that are being created. Yep, I'm also considering the fact that none of, almost, I would say 90% of them are not actually good engineers. They're just there for the sake of degrees. They've copied their assignments from their peers and stuff, right?
Yes.
Uh, I would say if we are also using math just in order to provide a medium to get a degree, this is also one of the prominent problems that we are facing in higher education and college education areas. um how do you think that we can bring in love for the sake of the subject of math? Like you saying, asking the question, why should I study math, right? What is
Yeah.
the reason behind studying math? What is the reason behind this coming to existence? Why do I have to study this? How is this going to help me, or all of that stuff, right? I mean, you can answer to it from the very basics to the very advanced. Like if you're a student who is trying to pursue something in higher education, you could say you going to use this in this area of your particular branch that you are trying to pursue in your higher education. So this is a legit answer to them. If it is a kid, you can tell, how many chocolates do you buy a day? Okay, that's there's a number to it. There's X number of chocolates that I buy. How many of you eat that day? Then there's a Y to that. X minus Y is the number of chocolates that have been left for the next day to eat, and then maybe you'll buy chocolates next day. It's like that. So, the, I mean, I'm getting what you're saying, but how do you bring in love and interest for the subject of math? Or no, I mean, not just math, but any particular subject a student might not be interested in.
uh, Love, I'm not sure. I'm
Hmm.
like I'll just think about when I'm answering the second part.
Right.
Interest is obviously, you have to remember when you're teaching, let's say, because we always think of the masses.
Hmm.
We always think, if you're teaching 100 kids, the
Hmm.
mentality is all of them are interested.
Hmm. Yeah.
All of them should be interested. I'm
Uh-huh.
teaching you.
Oh,
Is
okay. You're saying that we assume that they all should be interested, or they
They
might be
all should be
interested. That is why
interested.
they have.
That's the
Yeah.
first thing. The
Right. Right.
second thing,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I've learned over the
Hmm.
few years of
Hmm.
or here I've been,
Hmm.
or with the kids or anybody,
Hmm.
uh, you always teach
Hmm.
or want to teach kids or tell
Hmm.
them
Hmm.
whatever you want to.
Hmm.
You never ask kids what is the thing you want to learn.
Hmm.
We never ask because we are like, I know this, so I'm gonna tell you this. And that's the approach, right? Every teacher has that particular approach where they do this particular thing where, like,
Hmm.
I know this, so I'm gonna teach you this.
Hmm.
He never asks, what is it you want to do?
Hmm.
I'm sure majority or few of the scenarios is not possible, but in the schools and in the colleges, it's definitely possible where you can be asked, "What is it you want to learn?" and then you can teach whatever you want after telling them what they want to learn, because it satisfies their own, uh, what you can say, enthusiasm at first. Then maybe they'll be interested. If out of 100 only one kid or five kids are interested in your mathematics, if you answer the question of, let's say, 20 kids, they might be interested just in a way that this guy answers or this guy listens to me.
Uh huh. Right. I see.
That might be the second thing I would think is, that's how you approach the any boring subject, is with love, is basically
Hmm.
what the other person wants to know.
Hmm. Hmm.
If they have been heard what they want to know,
Hmm.
then that's the part of love, is, I would say. I'm not sure if it fits in the
Uh-huh.
particular
I was saying,
definition.
I used the frame. I used the frame of love, the term love.
Yeah, yeah.
Why I did that was because when we are trying to pursue from higher education, for example, let's say you're trying to get into the IITs. Okay, you are recommended to study at least 8 to 10 hours a day by any
Correct.
form of teacher. And if just think about it, anybody who's listening to this show, if you're studying something 8 to 10 hours a day, isn't that what we call passion? You're basically focusing and
Correct.
going all in on something for 8 to 10 hours. That's a lot of focus to bring in a world where the attention span of people is just in a few seconds. You're getting everything in seconds. So that's a lot of challenge to face in one single go, right? In a single day, in a single schedule, in a single time frame. And that's why I think the idea of bringing passion towards the subject is only limited to the very few who are actually very interested into this. But even the idea of interest, bringing awareness about why you should study it, why you should be interested in, and how you can bring up interest into this is one of the problems that I think is very prominent in our education system in particular. Okay, moving on. We have recorded almost 1 hour, 10 minutes of a podcast, but we'll see how much it goes on for. Okay. So a quick question that I have for you is it true that a student who gets good grades in a subject is also great at that particular subject and tries to learn more about it outside his or her scholastics? For example, let's say somebody is great at physics. Is it going to be a case where that kid is, if he or she is being taught Newton, that kid might also be interested? I mean, they might know, I'm not talking about interest, but they might also know things that are outside their particular syllabus, because as to what I've experienced, I've not really met any of these kids in my surroundings who are actually studying about things outside their syllabus, because they're like, how do I get marks out of it, right? That's the query that they raise all the time. So I want to know, from your experience as an educator, have you found these kids, and how prominent have these kids been in your particular experience?
I would say, if you're getting good grades, doesn't mean they're really interested in the subject itself or they're learning outside. Like there is a good possibility, or most of the kids I've seen who are interested, uh, they'll not be getting good marks because they are actually learning a lot of other things because they're
Mm-hmm.
just interested.
Mm-hmm.
And there are kids who are really interested in whatever is being taught.
Mm-hmm.
They will not go beyond the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
They will know whatever they have been taught, and they're only interested in that.
Right.
They will not go out of the box, but they
Mm-hmm.
would be really interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there are kids who are just, happens to be lucky, or they're just intelligent, who get
Mm-hmm.
good marks,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll not be interested at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So I've seen all three types of kids, and most of the kids which I see are on the of the first type,
Mm-hmm.
where they're generally interested in stuff, so they keep on looking for the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they'll get good marks or they will even get into that particular topic, or pursue it as a field. They're just
Mm-hmm.
interested.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. So the three kids were, if you could just mention them down one by one, what were they?
The
Uh,
first kids who are just interested in learning the topics, so they keep on learning topics. They may not get necessarily good grades,
mm-hmm.
but they're interested. The second is the box kids, where they're really interested in the subject,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever is in the box or in the textbook or whatever is being taught,
Okay.
they'll not make efforts to go beyond that box to learn more about the subject, because they're happy with whatever they have and they're really interested in that particular thing. If
Mm-hmm.
you're teaching them 3 plus 5 is equal to 8, they will not ask you what is 3 minus 5. They're really interested in 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And the third type of kids are who are not really interested at, like, but they just keep on getting good grades.
Mm-hmm.
They will not be interested, they'll not even study, but they'll just keep good grades. They're just doing good.
Right,
It's just
right.
probably, you can say they're more intelligent probably than
They work
others.
harder,
They
probably
work
a lot of
harder,
people. Yeah.
they have better gathering capacity, or
Mm-hmm.
grasping capacity, anything.
That's the thing. Right, right. Uh, we are moving towards the end of our show. As a student of science, as an educator of STEM, what message would you like to give to our audience?
I would say this is the best thing. What I've learned is, you cannot teach anybody.
Okay.
Teaching is a self learning process or a self process.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only go and share your story or share your experience and say, this is what I have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're interested, you can ask me questions or we can move
Mm-hmm.
forward with this.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot teach anybody because that's a self thing, that's a self process. And the example I would give is not a perfect example in a way that they don't have time constraint is what musicians do. All these classical musicians with their gharanas, the kid starts learning starts listening music at the age of 1 2 3,
Hmm.
and at the age of 10 or 11 12 they already know what is being done in the space,
Hmm.
uh, matching their vocals to
Hmm.
whatever they have listened to.
Hmm.
They're not making effort, so it's a background or continuous process. In a way, nobody's teaching them what to do.
Hmm.
They're
Right.
just trying to, they've got all the things, they're just trying to match that thing with their own voice, that's it. Or then they make their own style. That's how self-learning process are. That, like, it takes a lot of time, but that's how you do it. You learn from the experiences.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay, finally we've come to an end of a show. Thank you everyone for listening to the 17th episode of the Whimper podcast, Cosmic Learning with Mihir Athale. I hope you liked the title. I hope you liked the episode. Thank you, Mihir, for coming to the show. All the credits to people who are going to be working on this behind in the team. I'm really glad for you all to be here, be present here, for your time, for your patience, and hope to see you in the future in another episode of the Wimper podcast. Keep looking up.
Thanks, Divyash. Thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to the podcast and things in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.